The morning sky over Seoul was clear and bright. Stood among 50 other diplomats and translators at the International Spaceport. His heart was beating fast. Today was the day that would change human history forever. For 30 years, humanity had been sending signals into deep space. They had hoped someone would answer. 3 months ago, someone finally did. The Empire, an ancient civilization that ruled over 200 star systems, had received Earth's messages. They were coming to meet humanity face to face. Was 28 years old. He worked as a linguist for the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. His job was to study languages and help people communicate. When they sent their first response, was part of the team that decoded their language. He had spent 3 months learning to speak basic. Now he would use those skills. The crowd grew quiet as a massive ship descended from the clouds. It was silver and shaped like a crescent moon. Lights danced along its surface like stars. Had never seen anything so beautiful. The ship landed without making a sound. A ramp extended from its side, and figures began to walk down. They were tall. Most of them stood over 2 meters high. Their skin seemed to glow softly from within, like moonlight trapped under glass. Their eyes were large and changed color with their emotions. Right now, those eyes showed curiosity as they looked at the gathered humans. Watched as soldiers came first, dressed in armor that seemed to be made of liquid metal. Then came advisors in flowing robes. Then came servants carrying items could not identify. And then she appeared. Princess walked down the ramp with the grace of flowing water. She was smaller than the other, closer to human height. Her hair was the color of starlight, falling past her shoulders like a silver waterfall. Her skin glowed brighter than the others, and her eyes were the color of polished silver. She was the emperor's 3rd daughter. The briefing files said she was over 400 years old, though she looked no older than himself. She had been sent as a gesture of friendship between their peoples. Could not look away from her. Princess reached the bottom of the ramp and began walking toward the welcoming committee. The president of the United Earth Council stepped forward to greet her. Then Princess stopped. She stopped so suddenly that her guards nearly walked into her. Her silver eyes had found something in the crowd. They were fixed on one person and one person only. Realized she was looking at him. Time seemed to freeze. The noise of the crowd faded away. Felt a strange warmth bloom in his chest, like someone had lit a small fire inside his heart. It was not painful. It was familiar, like meeting an old friend after many years apart. Princess's eyes went wide. Her hand moved to her chest, pressing against the spot over her heart. Her lips parted, and she whispered something that could not hear from this distance. Her attendants crowded around her, speaking in rapid, caught fragments of their words. They were asking if she was ill. They were asking what was wrong. Princess shook her head slowly. She collected herself, smoothing her expression back to royal calm. But when she stepped forward to greet the president, her movements seemed mechanical, distracted. Throughout the welcoming ceremony, felt her gaze return to him again and again. Each time their eyes met, that strange warmth in his chest grew stronger. He did not understand what was happening. He was nobody special, just a linguist from a small family inn. Why would an alien princess look at him like that? The ceremony ended, and the diplomatic talks were scheduled to begin the next day. As the delegation prepared to leave for their quarters, an attendant approached the human diplomats. "Princess has made a request," the attendant said in accented but clear Korean. "She wishes to have a specific translator assigned to her during her stay." The head of the diplomatic team nodded. "Of course. Which of our translators does she prefer?" The attendant pointed directly at that one. The young man with dark eyes. She requests him specifically. Felt his colleagues turn to stare at him. He felt heat rise to his face. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. "That is," his supervisor said. "He is skilled, but he is not our most senior translator. Perhaps one of our more experienced. The princess was specific, the attendant interrupted. She will have or no one. There was a moment of silence. Then the supervisor nodded. Very well, you will report to the delegation quarters tomorrow morning. Bode, his mind was spinning with questions, but he kept his face calm. I understand. I will be there. The departed in vehicles provided by the Earth government. As the convoy pulled away, saw Princess watching him through the window of her transport. Her silver eyes held an expression he could not read. Sadness, hope, recognition. The window turned opaque, and she was gone. That evening ate dinner alone in his small apartment. He kept thinking about what had happened. The princess had looked at him like she knew him, but that was impossible. They had never met before. Humans, and had never met before today. He tried to focus on reviewing his vocabulary, but his concentration kept breaking. Finally, he gave up and went to bed early. Sleep came quickly, but it brought strange dreams. Found himself floating among stars he did not recognize. Nebulas of purple and gold swirled around him. He felt no fear, only wonder. This place felt like home, though he had never been here before. A voice called out in the darkness. It was soft and warm, like sunlight after a long winter. You have returned, the voice said. After so long, you have finally returned. Tried to speak, but he had no voice in this place. Do not be afraid, the voice continued. You will understand soon. The bond cannot be broken. The resonance always finds its way back. Wanted to ask what these words meant. He wanted to ask who was speaking. But the dream began to fade. The stars grew dim. The voice grew distant. Remember, it whispered. Remember who you were. Remember who you are meant to be. Woke with tears on his face. He did not know why he was crying. He could not remember most of the dream, only fragments, stars, a voice, a feeling of being loved so deeply that it hurt. He looked at the clock. It was still dark outside. In a few hours, he would go to meet Princess and begin his work as her translator. Somehow knew that this assignment would change his life forever. He did not know how. He did not know why. But deep in his chest, where that strange warmth still glowed like an ember, he felt the truth of it. Something was beginning. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. Got out of bed and stood by his window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, among those distant lights, were the answers to questions he did not yet know how to ask. He whispered into the darkness, "Who am I?" The stars did not answer, but somewhere in his heart he felt them listening. 2 weeks had passed since they arrived on Earth. Spent every day at the diplomatic compound, translating for Princess during meetings and negotiations. At first he had been nervous. She was royalty from an empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. He was just a translator but Princess had a way of making him feel comfortable. She asked him questions about Earth, about human culture, about his family. She listened to his answers with genuine interest. She was nothing like what had expected from an alien princess. She laughed at his jokes. She apologized when her attendants were rude to the human staff. She tried human food and made funny faces when she ate kimchi for the first time. But she also watched him, always watched him. When she thought he was not looking, her silver eyes would fix on him with an intensity that made his skin tingle. Sometimes she would reach toward him, then catch herself and pull her hand back. Sometimes she would start to say something, then change the subject. Knew she was hiding something. He did not push her to tell him. He sensed she would explain when she was ready. Meanwhile, strange things were happening to him. It started small. The lights in his apartment flickered whenever he walked past them. His phone battery never seemed to run out, even when he forgot to charge it. A cut on his finger healed overnight, leaving no scar. Then the dreams grew stronger. Every night dreamed of places he had never seen. Ancient battles fought among the stars. Ships made of light sailing through cosmic storms. And always a presence beside him. someone he loved more than life itself, someone whose face he could never quite see. He woke each morning feeling exhausted and confused. Dark circles appeared under his eyes. His colleagues began to notice. His younger sister noticed too. Was 32 years old and worked as a geneticist at Seoul National University. She was brilliant, stubborn, and always worried about her little brother. When came home for their weekly family dinner, she took one look at him and frowned. "You look terrible," she said. "Are you sick?" "I am fine," lied. "Just tired, the work is demanding." Did not believe him. She watched him throughout dinner, noting how his hands sometimes trembled, how he seemed to lose focus mid-sentence. After their parents went to bed, she pulled him aside. "Something is wrong with you," she said. "Do not lie to me, I can see it." Hesitated, then he told her everything, the strange feelings, the healing cut, the dreams, the way Princess looked at him like she knew him from somewhere. Listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Come to my lab tomorrow," she finally said. "Let me run some tests. I want to check your blood, your DNA. Something is not normal here and I want to know what it is." Agreed. He trusted his sister more than anyone. The next evening, after his translation duties were done, went to the diplomatic compound gardens to clear his head. The gardens were beautiful at sunset, filled with flowers from both earth and. He found a quiet bench and sat down, trying to make sense of everything that was happening. He did not hear Princess approach until she spoke. "May I sit with you?" Jumped to his feet, startled. "Your Highness, of course." Smiled sadly. "Please, when we are alone, call me. I am tired of titles." She sat on the bench and after a moment sat beside her. They watched the sunset together in silence. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. "I must tell you something," said at last. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. "I have waited 2 weeks because I did not know how to explain, but I cannot wait any longer. You deserve to know the truth." His heart began to beat faster. The truth about what? Turned to face him. Her silver eyes were filled with emotions he could not name. "Do you know why I stopped when I first saw you? Why I could not move, could not speak?" "I have wondered," admitted. "I am nobody special. I do not understand why you looked at me that way." "You are wrong," said. "You are more special than you know." She took a deep breath. "Among my people there is a phenomenon called the resonance. It is difficult to explain. It is a recognition between two souls, a bond that goes deeper than love, deeper than memory. When two people share this bond, they know each other instantly, even if they have never met before." Felt the warmth in his chest grow stronger. "And you felt this, resonance, when you saw me?" "Yes," tears appeared in his eyes. "The last recorded resonance in our history happened over 10,000 years ago. We thought it was just a legend. But the moment I saw you, I felt it. My soul recognized yours." Did not know what to say. His mind was racing. "How is that possible? I am human. You are. Our species have never even met before." "I know," reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm and soft. "That is what makes this so impossible, so wonderful, so terrifying." She looked into his eyes. "You carry something within you, something that should not exist in a human, your soul. It sings to mine. It calls to me across the stars." Before could respond, an explosion shattered the evening peace. The sound came from the main compound building. Alarms began screaming. Guards ran past them, weapons drawn. "What is happening?" shouted. Another explosion, closer this time. Through the smoke, saw figures in black armor moving through the gardens. They were, but their armor was different from the guards. These were assassins. "Extremists," gasped. "They oppose our alliance with humanity. They must have infiltrated the compound." She stood up. "I need to reach my guards." But the assassins had already seen her. 3 of them turned and began running toward the princess, weapons raised. Did not think, he did not plan, he simply moved. He threw himself in front of just as the lead assassin fired. A beam of blue light struck him directly in the chest. Pain, incredible pain, felt like he was being torn apart from the inside. He heard scream his name. He felt himself falling. And then something else happened. The pain became heat. The heat became light. Golden light exploded from his body, pouring out of him like water from a broken dam. It was brighter than the sun, brighter than anything he had ever seen. The assassins stumbled backward, shielding their eyes. Their weapons fell from their hands. Even through his fading consciousness, heard their voices filled with terror. "Impossible," one of them whispered. They have returned." They ran. All three assassins turned and fled into the smoke, leaving lying on the ground with golden light still flickering around him like dying flames. Knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Can you hear me?" He wanted to answer her. He wanted to ask what had happened. He wanted to understand why he was still alive when that blast should have killed him. But the darkness was coming. It wrapped around him like a blanket, pulling him down into unconsciousness. The last thing he saw was face above him, her silver eyes shining with golden reflected light. The last thing he heard was her voice, broken with emotion. "I found you," she whispered. "After all this time, I finally found you." Then the darkness took him and knew nothing more. Opened his eyes to a ceiling made of stars. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming. Then he realized he was looking through a transparent window at actual space. Stars drifted past slowly, their light cold and distant. He was not on Earth anymore. He tried to sit up, but his body was weak. He managed to lift his head enough to look around. He was lying on a bed that seemed to be made of soft light. Strange machines floated around him, humming quietly. The room itself was circular, with curved walls that glowed with gentle warmth. "You are awake." His voice came from his left. She was sitting in a chair beside his bed. Her silver hair was messy, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked like she had not slept in days. "Where am I?" His voice came out rough and dry. "My personal medical ship said, 'We are in orbit around your planet. I brought you here after the attack. Human doctors could not have saved you. Even our doctors almost failed.'" Her voice trembled. "You were dying. The blast should have killed you instantly, but something inside you fought back. Remembered the golden light, the strange power that had erupted from his body. What happened to me? What am I?" Was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the window, staring out at the stars. "What I am about to tell you is known only to the imperial family. It is our greatest secret, passed down for 15,000 years. I am breaking sacred laws by sharing it with you, but you deserve to know." She turned to face him. "You asked what you are. The truth is you are human, but you are also something more, something that was supposed to be impossible." Began to pace as she spoke. 15,000 years ago, when my people were young, we were not alone in the galaxy. There was another race. We called them they were beings of pure cosmic energy, the first children of the universe itself. Listened, feeling the warmth in his chest pulse with every word. "Though we're powerful beyond imagination," continued. "They could reshape stars, they could travel through time, they could create life from nothing, but they were not cruel, they were kind. They found my people struggling on our and lifted us up. They taught us to build ships, they taught us to travel the stars, they gave us everything we have." "What happened to them?" asked. His expression darkened. "Something hunted them, creatures from between dimensions. We call them the Void Reapers. They fed on this light. For millions of years, they ran from them, hiding across the universe. But the Reapers always found them." She sat down on the edge of his bed. The emperor of that time was a young prince. He fell in love with a woman. Their bond was deep and true. It was the first resonance ever recorded. His breath caught. "The first." "Yes," eyes met his. "But the Void Reapers found the hiding among us. They came with an army that blackened the sky. They knew they could not win, So they made a choice. They gathered together and released all their energy at once, scattering it across the entire galaxy. Without bodies, without form, they could not be hunted. The Reapers had nothing left to chase. Tears rolled down his cheeks. The prince begged his beloved not to go. She held his face in her hands and made him a promise. She said, "I will find you again across any distance, through any lifetime. The resonance cannot be broken. Our souls will sing to each other forever." And the prince whispered. He lived. He became emperor. He ruled for 300 years, always waiting, always hopping. But she never returned, wiped her tears. When he finally died, his last words were her name. The room was silent, except for the gentle hum of the machines. "The woman," said softly, "was named. I was named after her. Every princess in our line carries her name in honor of her sacrifice." Felt something shift inside him. The warmth in his chest expanded, spreading through his entire body. And the prince, what was his name? Took his hand. Her fingers were trembling. In our oldest language, his name means light of the dawn. When translated to your Korean, the closest word is. The world seemed to tilt, stared at the princess, unable to speak. "You carry his soul," said. Somehow, across 15,000 years, the prince's soul was reborn. In you, a human on a planet we never knew existed. And when I saw you, I felt what she felt. What my ancestors beloved felt. The resonance. "That is impossible," managed to say. I am nobody. I studied languages at university. I have never." "The soul does not remember," interrupted gently. "But it knows. It has always known. Why do you think you learned our language so easily? Why do you think you were drawn to the stars? Why do you think you dreamed of places you have never seen?" Thought about his childhood, how he would spend hours staring at the night sky, how he felt homesick for a home he could not name, how he always felt like he was waiting for something, someone. "The golden light," he said slowly, "when the assassin shot me." "The essence inside you woke up to protect you," said. "It has been sleeping in your soul for 15,000 years, but now it is beginning to awaken." She squeezed his hand. Her silver eyes were filled with both joy and fear. "There is more you must know." They scattered their energy across the galaxy, but that energy did not just float in space. It seeded worlds. It entered living things. It entered your people. "What do you mean?" "Humanity," said. "Your species carries traces of energy in your DNA. That is why you evolved so quickly. That is why you create art and music that moves even us to tears. That is why you love so fiercely and dream so boldly. This greatest gift was not given to us. It was given to you." Felt tears forming in his own eyes now. His entire understanding of humanity, of himself, was changing. "But there is danger," continued, her voice dropping low. "When the Void Reapers lost their prey, they went quiet, sleeping between dimensions, but they never stopped hunting." She looked at him with fear in her eyes. "If you fully awaken, if the essence inside you grows strong enough, they will sense it. They will come. Come for me. Come for everyone." His voice broke. "The Void Reapers nearly destroyed the galaxy once. If they return, they will finish what they started, and it will be because of us, because of our resonance, because you and I found each other again." The stars drifted past the window, cold and eternal. Looked at them and felt the weight of 15,000 years pressing down on his shoulders. He was not just any more. He was a reborn prince. He carried the essence of an ancient race, and his awakening might bring destruction to everything he loved. But when he looked at her tears and her hope and her fear, he felt something else too. He felt the resonance. He felt a love that had survived death and time and the void between stars. Whatever came next, he would not face it alone. He reached up and touched his face, wiping away her tears. "Then we will find a way," he said quietly, "together." Closed her eyes and leaned into his touch. "Together," she whispered. Outside the window, the stars kept turning. and somewhere in the darkness between them, something ancient began to stir. 3 months had passed since the attack. The galaxy had changed forever. News of the reborn spread through space like fire through dry grass. Some believed it was a miracle. Temples that had been empty for thousands of years filled with again. Priests spoke of ancient prophecies coming true. Common people wept with joy. Others believed it was a threat. In the imperial palace, half the nobles demanded that be killed before the Void Reapers could sense him. They called him a danger to the empire. They called him a curse wearing human skin. Tried to ignore the politics. He had more immediate problems. The essence inside him was growing stronger every day. Sometimes he would accidentally make lights flicker or machines hum. Once, when he was frustrated, he shattered every window in the room without touching them. He was becoming powerful, and he had no idea how to control it. Helped him. Every morning they would meet in the gardens of the diplomatic compound, and she would teach him to meditate. She showed him how to breathe, how to focus, how to find the calm place inside himself where the light lived. Do not fight it, she would say. The essence is part of you now. You must learn to work with it, not against it. Slowly began to understand. The power was not a weapon. It was an extension of his own soul. When he was calm, it was calm. When he was afraid, it lashed out. He needed to find balance. During their training sessions, they talked, told him about her life in the imperial palace, about her cold father, the emperor, who had not spoken to her with warmth since her mother died, about her 2 older sisters who saw her as competition rather than family, about the loneliness of being royal. Told her about Earth, about his parents who ran a small restaurant inn, about his sister who was too smart for her own good, about the smell of the ocean, the taste of his mother's cooking, the sound of rain on the roof. They were from different worlds in every way, but when they were together, none of that mattered. The resonance connected them on a level deeper than culture or species. They understood each other without words. Sometimes when they walked in the gardens at sunset would take his hand. Sometimes when the weight of everything became too heavy would hold her while she cried. They did not speak of love. They did not need to. It was simply there, as natural as breathing. Came to the compound often. She had been studying DNA ever since the attack, and she had made a discovery that changed everything. I found it, she told them one evening, spreading papers across a table. The energy in human DNA, it is in all of us. Every human being on Earth carries it. Stared at the data, strings of genetic code highlighted in gold. All of us. All of us. Eyes were bright with excitement. This is why humans are the way we are. Our creativity, our passion, our ability to love and hate and dream, it all comes from we are their children, their legacy. Picked up one of the papers, studying it carefully. They did not just scatter their energy randomly. They chose specific worlds, specific species. They wanted their light to survive. And they chose us, said. They chose humanity. Felt pride and fear mixing in his chest. Pride that his people carried such a gift. Fear of what that gift might attract. The summons came a week later. The emperor himself wanted to see. He wanted to meet the human who carried the soul of his ancient ancestor, was ordered to bring him to the immediately. The journey took 2 days, spent most of it staring out the windows of ship, watching stars blur past as they traveled faster than light. He tried to prepare himself for meeting the emperor, but how could anyone prepare for something like this? It was beautiful and terrifying. Cities made of crystal floated in the sky. Rivers of light flowed between mountains that touched the clouds. Everything was ancient, elegant, and completely alien. The imperial palace was the largest structure had ever seen. It rose from the center of the capital city like a mountain of silver and glass. Guards in gleaming armor lined every hallway. Nobles in flowing robes watched pass with expressions ranging from curiosity to hatred. The emperor received them in his private chambers. He was tall even for with cold eyes and a face that showed no emotion. He looked at the way someone might look at an insect. "So," the emperor said, "this is the human who claims to carry my ancestor's soul." "I claim nothing," replied, keeping his voice steady. "I am only learning the truth of what I am." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "What you are is a danger. Your awakening has already been sensed. Our priests report disturbances in the void. The reapers are stirring." "Stepped forward, Father, please." "Silence." The emperor did not even look at her. "I have a solution. Our priests have developed a ritual. It can suppress the essence permanently. The human would live out his natural, normal, and powerless. The reapers would lose interest." Felt his heart sink. And the resonance, what would happen to my connection with? "Gone." The emperor said the word without emotion. "The bond would fade. You would feel nothing for each other. It would be as if you had never met." "No," his voice was sharp. "Father, you cannot ask this. I have waited. We have waited 15,000 years. "I can ask it. I am asking it." The emperor finally looked at his daughter. "You are a princess of the empire. Your feelings do not matter. Only the survival of our people matters." Looked at, she was trembling, tears forming in her silver eyes. He looked at the emperor, whose cold face showed no mercy. "I need time," said. "One night, let me think about this." The emperor studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "One night, you will give me your answer in the morning." That night came to the room where was staying. She did not knock. She simply appeared at his door, her face wet with tears. "I cannot choose for you," she said. "I have no right, but I need you to know something." She stepped closer. "I have lived for 400 years. I have been lonely for all of them. When I felt the resonance when I saw you, it was like the sun rising after an endless night. You gave me hope for the first time in my life." Took her hands, they were cold. "Whatever you decide, I am grateful." She looked into his eyes. "If you choose to forget me, if you choose to live a normal life, I will understand. I will spend the rest of my existence knowing that for one brief moment I was loved. That will be enough." She leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and sad and full of everything they could not say. Then she pulled away and walked out of the room without looking back. Stood alone in the darkness. The choice before him was impossible. Keep his power and risk destroying everything. Lose his power and forget the woman he loved. He lay down on the bed and closed his eyes, hopping for guidance. The dream came immediately. He was floating in golden light. Before him stood a figure made of stars. It had his face, but older, wiser, filled with ancient sorrow. "I am what you were," the figure said. "The prince who loved and lost. The soul that has traveled across time to find its way back." Stared at his past self. "What should I do? How can I choose?" The prince smiled sadly. They did not sacrifice themselves out of fear. They did it out of love. Love for the galaxy, love for the future, love for people they would never meet. "I do not understand." "Love does not hide," the prince said. "Love does not run. Love does not give up." His form began to fade. True love blazes. It blazes so bright that even the darkness cannot stand against it. Woke with his heart pounding, he knew what he had to do. When the sun rose over the crystal city, he walked into the emperor's chamber with his head held high. "I choose to awaken," he said. "I choose to blaze." The awakening nearly destroyed him. Stood in the center of the imperial temple, surrounded by 1,000 priests. They chanted words in a language older than human civilization. Energy swirled around him like a hurricane made of light. The essence inside him responded. It rose from the deepest part of his soul and exploded outward. Golden fire poured from his eyes, his mouth, his hands. His body lifted off the ground as power beyond imagination flooded through him. He screamed. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. It was like being born and dying at the same time. Every cell in his body was being remade, transformed, elevated. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Floated back to the ground. He looked at his hands. They glowed softly like embers waiting to burn. He could feel everything now. The heartbeat of every person in the temple, the rotation of the planet beneath his feet, the pulse of stars millions of light years away. He was no longer just human. He was something new, something between what he was and what they had been. Ran to him, she touched his face, searching his eyes. "Are you still you?" Smiled, despite all the power flooding through him, her touch still made his heart beat faster. "I am still me, I am just more." They had 3 days of peace, 3 days of learning what could do. He could heal wounds with a touch. He could speak directly into minds across vast distances. He could see the threads of fate that connected all living things. But on the 4th day, the sky went dark. The Void Reapers had come. They tore through reality itself, pouring from wounds in the fabric of space. They were darkness given form, shadows that devoured light, hunger that could never be satisfied. They screamed without voices, a sound that drove weaker minds to madness. The fleet rose to meet them, 3,000 warships, the greatest military force in the galaxy. They fired weapons that could crack planets. They launched bombs that burned hotter than stars. The Reapers did not slow down. Ship after ship was consumed. The darkness simply swallowed the attacks and kept coming. The fleet's ranks broke. Ships began to flee. The greatest empire in the galaxy was falling. Watched from the palace balcony. Beside him stood, dressed in battle armor, commanding her personal guard. Behind them stood, who had traveled to work with their scientists on a desperate plan. "We cannot win," said, her voice shaking. "Our weapons do nothing. Their darkness is beyond anything we can fight." Felt the Reaper's hunger. It was ancient, it was endless. But as he reached out with his new senses, he felt something else too, pain, loneliness, a desperate, eternal need. "They are not evil," he said slowly. "They are lost." Looked at him. "What do you mean?" "They come from the universe before ours. When that universe died, they were left behind. They have been wandering the void between realities for billions of years, alone, empty, starving for something they can never have. Turn to face the darkness filling the sky. They do not want to destroy, they want to be saved." "How do you save something like that?" asked. Closed his eyes. The answer came to him from somewhere deep inside, from the essence, from the memories of those ancient beings of light. You give them what they need, a home, a place to rest, peace. He stepped forward to the edge of the balcony. "What are you doing?" grabbed his arm. "What I was reborn to do." He looked at her, memorizing every detail of her face, her silver hair, her beautiful eyes, the way she looked at him like he was the most important thing in the universe. They did not fight the Reapers. They could not win that fight, but they could offer mercy. They could offer love. "No," his voice broke. "You cannot sacrifice yourself. I just found you. After 15,000 years, I just found you." Pulled her close and kissed her. It was not sad this time. It was full of hope, full of promise. "I am not going to sacrifice myself," he whispered against her lips. "I am going to save them, and then I am going to come back to you, I promise." He pulled away before she could stop him. He jumped from the balcony and flew upward, golden light blazing around him like a star being born. The Reapers sensed him. They turned from the fleet, from the planet, from everything else. Their attention fixed on the single point of light rising to meet them. Flew into the heart of the darkness. The cold was unimaginable. The hunger pressed against him from all sides, trying to devour his light. But he did not fight. He did not resist. He opened his arms and let them come. And he showed them something they had never seen. He showed them warmth. He showed them compassion. He showed them what it felt like to be loved. Through the essence, through the power of a race that had chosen sacrifice over survival, he created something impossible. A door opened in the void. Beyond it was a place of eternal light. a dimension created from pure mercy, a home for beings who had never known home. The Reapers stopped. For a moment that lasted an eternity, they hovered in the darkness, considering. Then, one by one, they turned toward the door. They flowed through it like water finding its path. They went willingly, eagerly, into the peace they had sought for longer than stars had existed. As the last Reaper passed through, felt the essence begin to fade. It was flowing out of him, dispersing across the galaxy just as it had 15,000 years ago. But this time, it was not fleeing. It was giving itself freely. A gift to every living world. A seed of light planted in countless souls. The door closed. The darkness was gone. The sky was clear again. Vel. He had no power left to fly. No energy to slow his descent. He was just a man again. A human man falling through the atmosphere of an alien world. But before he could hit the ground, arms caught him. Riding-A had flown up to meet him. She wrapped her arms around him and held on tight as they descended together. They landed in the palace gardens, lay on the grass too weak to move, knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "You came back," she sobbed. "You promised and you came back." Smiled weakly. "I told you I would." He lifted his hand and looked at it. No golden glow, no power, just ordinary human skin. "It is gone," he said. "The essence, I am just me now." "Just you is enough," helped him sit up. "Just you has always been enough." Came running across the garden with medics behind her. She crashed to her knees beside her brother and hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "You stupid, brave, impossible idiot," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Do not ever do anything like that again." "I will try not to," said. The galaxy celebrated for months. Songs were written about the human who had saved them all. Statues were carved. Holidays were declared. The Empire and humanity signed a treaty of eternal friendship. But did not care about any of that. He only cared about one thing. On a warm evening in the Gardens of Sol, surrounded by cherry blossoms, married princess of the Empire, his parents cried. His sister gave a speech that made everyone laugh and then cry, and when looked into silver eyes and said, "I do," he felt the resonance hum in his chest, weaker than before but still there, still connecting them across the stars. The years passed. They had children, beautiful hybrid beings who carried the best of both their peoples. They grew old together, traveling between Earth and never staying in one place too long because the universe was too big and too wonderful to stop exploring. 80 years after the day they met, lay in a bed surrounded by his family. His children, now middle-aged, his full of life and wonder, and who had not aged a day, holding his wrinkled hand in her smooth one. "I am sorry," he whispered. "You waited so long and I could only give you decades." Smiled through her tears. They were the best decades of my life, the best decades of my many, many lives. Closed his eyes. He was tired, but he was not afraid. Death was not an ending. He knew that now. It was just another journey. "Find me again," he said softly. "Always," promised, "across any distance, through any lifetime." His last breath left him with a smile on his face. Felt the moment he was gone. The resonance flickered and faded. She wept, surrounded by the family they had built together. But even as she cried, she felt something else. A tiny spark, a distant echo. The resonance was not gone, it was traveling. She looked up at the stars through the window and smiled through her tears. Somewhere on a distant world that humanity was just beginning to explore, a baby was born. The doctor noted something strange. For just a moment, the newborn's eyes seemed to shine with golden light. The baby opened its mouth and cried, and the cry echoed across the stars. Felt it, she pressed her hand to her heart and laughed softly. "There you are," she whispered. "I will see you soon, my love." The cycle continued. The resonance endured, and love, true love, blazed on forever.